watching those his omnicolors, Harry saw that they didn't look remotely beautiful now. On the contrary, their faces were elongated into sharp, cruel birds' heads, and long scaly wings were bursting from their shoulders. "And that, boys," yelled Mr. Weasley over the tumult of the crowd below, "is why you should never go for looks alone." Minister wizards were floating onto the field to separate the villa and the leprechauns, but with little success. Meanwhile, the picture battle below was nothing to the one talking place above. Harry turned this way and that, starting thought his omnicolors, and the coffee changed hands with the speed of a bullet. Levski, Dimitrov, Morn, Troy, Mullet, Ivanova, Morn again, Morn scarce. But the cheers of their superstar were bellowed over the shrieks of the villa. The blast now issuing from the ministry members' vents, and the furious roars of the Bulgarian. The game recommenced immediately. No Levski had the coffee, no Dimitrov. The Irish batter quickly swung heavily at a passing blocker, and hit it as hard as possible towards Krum, who did not duck quickly enough. It hit him full in the face. There was a deafening groan from the crowd. Krum's nose looked broken. There was blood everywhere, but Hassan Mustafa didn't blow his whistle. He had become distracted, and Harry could blame him. One of the villa had thrown headful on fire and set his broom-tail elk. Harry wanted someone to realize that Krum was injured. Even though he was supporting Ireland, Krum was the most exciting player on the field. Ron obviously felt the same. "Time out! Come on, he can't play like that. Look at him!" "Look at lunch!" Harry yelled. For the Irish seeker had suddenly gone into a gale, and Harry was quite sure that this was no Wronski feint. This was the real thing. "He's seen the snitch!" Harry shouted. "He's seen it! Look at him go!" How the crowd seemed to have realized what was happening. The Irish supported rose in another great wave of green, screaming their seekers on. But Krum was on his tail. How he could see where he was going, Harry had no idea. There were flecks of blood flying through the air behind him, but he was drawing level with lunch now as the pair of them hurtled toward the ground again.
"They're going to crash!" shrieked Hermione. "They're not," roared Ron. "Lucius!" yelled Harry, and he was right for the second time. Luch hit the ground with tremendous force and was immediately stampeded by a horde of angry villa. Krum, his red robes shining with blood from his nose, was racing gently in the air. His fierce held high, a glint of gold in his hand. The scarabord was flashing Bulgari, 160 island, 170 acres. The crowd, who didn't seem to have realized what had happened, then slowly a throng, a great jumbo jet were revving up the rambling. From the island, supporters glow louded and epithet in scream of delight. Crown gets the schnitz, but island twins, good lord, I don't think any of us were expensing that. What did he get the shine for? Ron bellowed even as he jumped up and down, applauding with him heads over his head. He ended it when Ireland were 160 points ahead the idiot. He knew they were never going to catch up. Harry shouted back over all the noise, all applauding loudly. The Irish chasers were they're good. He wanted to end it on his terms, that's all. He was very proud, watch he, Hermione said, leaning forward to watch Crum land as a swarm of muddy wizards blasted a path throng the bat-linked leprechauns and Willa to get to him. He looked a terrible mess. Harry put his omnioculars to his ears again. It was hard to see what was happening below, because leprechauns were zooming delightedly all over the field, but he could just make out Crum. Supported by medieval arts, he looked sideless then even and refused to let them mop his up. His team members were around him, shaking their heads and looking dejected. A short way away, the Irish players were dancing gleefully in a shower of gold descending from their mascots. Flags were waving all over the stadium. The witch were the snitch below Charlie along the row. He's going it. Cram got it's all over, shouted Harry.
Well, we fought bravely, said a gloomy voice behind Harry. He looked around. It was the Bulgarian Minister of Magic. You can speak English, said Fudgy, sounding out a rage, and you've been letting me mind everything all day. Well, it was very funny, said the Bulgarian Minister, shrugging. And as the Irish team performs a lap of honor, flanked by their mascot, the Quidditch World Cup itself is brought into the top box, roared Bagman. Harry's eyes were suddenly dazzled by a blinking white light as the top box was magically illuminated so that everyone in the stands could see the inside. Squinting towards the entrance, he saw two panting wizards carrying a vast golden cup into the box, which they handed to Cornelius first, who was still looking very distracted that he had been using sign language all day for nothing. Let's have a really loud hand for the gallant losers, Bulgaria, Bagman shouted. And up the stairs into the box came the 7 defiant Bulgarian players. The crowd below was applauding appreciably. Harry could see thousands and thousands of omnicolor lenses flashing and winking in their direction. One by one, the Bulgarians filed between the rows of seats in the box, and Bagman called out the name of each as they shook hands with their own minister and then with Fudge. Crumb, who was last in line, looked a really mess. Two black eyes were blooming spectacularly on his bloody face. He was still holding the snitch. Harry noticed that he seemed much less coordinated on the ground. He was slightly dark-foot and distinctly round-shouldered, but when Crumb's name was announced, the whole stadium gave him a resounding, earling roar. And then came the Irish team. Aidan Lunch was being supported by Moran and Connolly. The second crash seemed to have dazzled him, and his eyes looked strangely unfocused. But he grinned happily as Troy and Quirrell lifted the cup into the air and the crowd below thundered its approval. Harry's hands were numb with clapping. At last, when the Irish team had left the box to perform another lap of honor on their ropes, Aidan Lunch on the back of Confollis, clutching hard around his waist and still grinning in a bemused sort of way. Bagman pointed his wand at his throat and murmured, "Quits. They'll be talking about this one for years," he said hoarsely, a really unexpected twist. "That shame it couldn't have lasted longer. Oh, yes, I owe you how much?" For Fred and George had just scrambled over the back of their seats and were standing in front of Lado Bagman with broad grins of their faces, their hands outstretched. The end.